constantly, um, and now that I'm like coming up on 30, I realized it, and it's like hindsight is 2020, right? Like I wish I knew then what I know now.
Mm.
The aspect of just constantly trying to progress, no matter how small the progression or the steps are forward, just doing something to say that either it works out or it doesn't work out, or at least I learned something from the experience that I can take and further and do something better. Like even like from the dunya aspect of it. But
Even selecting spouses, like you brought up the guy who's asking you for wife recommendations. Being honest with yourself, there is like there are some people who say they're looking, they're not really looking though.
oh yeah,
So I'm like, you got to be honest with yourself. Like before you're honest with me or anyone else that you're asking for, like, are you actually, or do you just like the idea of like I don't know, scrolling through profiles and you just like the idea of, I call it, you know, the Netflix effect where you sit there and browse. And then what happens? You
you're
never
just browsing.
yeah, you end up not actually watching a movie.
Yeah.
You spend all your time just browsing.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I feel like people do that with like spouses. They're like, yeah, he's that way or she's that way. Like, and don't get me wrong, there are certain things you should definitely be like hard on and say, hey, these are my requirements, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people would find like a perfect candidate and still want to scroll. Just keep going. So the point wasn't like I'm just saying this for people, like just to be honest, like, hey, like I actually want to get married, or I don't. And if you, or right for now, then just be honest and or if you are, get a good one and get the hell out the way. Like just move. Like stop,
Yeah.
dilly dallying. Like there's way too many people out here trying to get married for you to just be playing around.
Yeah.
And if you're not, well then just stop asking everybody in the masjid. Stop coming up to random ammus and asking them and like, maybe he wants his daughter to get married. So you like,
Or not even that.
You
The
know?
questions sometimes, and I love when people ask questions. Like I'll never just walk away from someone asking a question, but those young like kids who are just like can't wait. They want to get married and they'll ask you a question, but the response is gonna take a good solid hour, 2 hours. Like they're asking you deep questions about marriage, and you're like, bro, you're 17, like you're 18.
like what? Give me a question.
Literally, what was your experience when it comes like a very open-ended question, right? It's just
Terrible.
open-ended, and then by saying one thing, oh, what about this? Because if it's an open-ended questions, you feel like you got to take them from step 1 to step 10. Like this was my experience about getting married, right?
Because you got married at 17 or 18?
18.
18.
Yeah.
And so anyone who's around that age now is asking you,
You see what I'm saying?
you have to walk them through the.
I have to walk them through the whole thing. So, and I don't mind, but like you said, the aspect of like chances are they're probably not going to really even follow through with anything that's
You
happening.
know what they call people like? I'm not saying this in particular, this person, but they call them ask holes.
That's good.
That's great.
That's a
right?
good one.
They're just people who just ask questions, and you ain't gonna do nothing with this information.
And
man.
that's a great thing because I actually started to consciously, wallahi, I've started to consciously ask myself, am I doing that? I didn't know the term before, but I started to make sure that I'm not asking questions just to ask. Before I used to ask sometimes just out of curiosity, but not taking into account how much pressure that might be putting on someone else.
Yeah.
It's like, put your curiosity to the side. Do you really need to know this right now or not? Right? Or are you just bothering the guy?
Yeah.
So it's
No, 100%.
You gotta reconsider it.
I used to just be happy hanging out with like the shuyukh, especially after talks and
Oh my
stuff.
gosh, this is the best hanging out with the mashayikh.
Yeah, I just love hanging out with them. So I just ask them questions that I have zero. Like
I used to ask a lot of
like,
questions.
huh?
I used to ask a lot of questions too, but
Yeah.
they were deep questions. I think those were good. They were
Yeah,
good
no,
questions.
I used to ask questions that I actually needed answers to, and then just because I felt like I had them in my vicinity, I would just like almost. I felt like I was bullying them. Like I was asking questions I had zero. I don't want to bring up anything mad controversial, but like I'll just be asking stuff that I absolutely have zero like chances of doing right now. Like, hey, what should I put on my will? Like, I have nothing. I have nothing but the car outside. Like, what am I? Why am I asking him this? And he's sitting down saying, "Give a third to your daughter." And I'm like, I ain't got no kids, and I got one kid. Like, what? Like, why am I asking him this question? But I just used to love being in that world of. It's almost like Google, but like you can't get this answer off Google. You know.